Hey, welcome to the shop. So if you've been following along, you may have noticed I recently upgraded my welding table to this Arcflat table from Langmuir Systems. I'm going to do a review on it today. I've been using it for a few weeks here because I don't like to do out-of-the-box reviews. I like to interact with the product first. So I'm going to tell you the good and the bad and what I've found with this table. At the end of this video, I'm going to throw in some tips that will help you know how to take care of your welding table, whatever kind that you have, and how I like to take care of mine, because that quality of how you care for it is going to translate directly into the parts that you make. So stick around for that. Now let's start off by talking about the construction. It is a nice cast and machined table, and that's why I was so excited about it, because it takes a cast and machined table like I've used at jobs in the past, and they've had at companies where I've worked, and it brings it in reach of a shop like mine. Previously they've been too expensive and also too large for the space that I have. So this table is 2 feet by 3 feet in size, and that's a really good size for my shop. But if you want a bigger table, you can actually add on to it. So you could purchase multiple blocks, and they have a bolt kit to attach them together, and it has a clever way of shimming them to make sure that it's perfectly aligned and flat when you add them together. And even though I am just starting out with one here, it's nice for me because if I move into a bigger shop, I know I'm not going to lose the investment I made in this table when I expand to a bigger table, because I can just add on another block. They sell the block and the legs separately, which is nice if you want to make your own style cart or legs to use with it, but I opted to use the factory legs just so I could get going right away. Now I did take some footage of when this arrived and putting it together. Let's go ahead and roll that film. Okay, so now that it's put together, let's talk a little bit about different types of welding tables that are available. So there's cast and machined welding tables like this. There are tables that are just a flat surface, and there are tables that actually take and add some rigidity by welding them together. So the challenge with tables that are just a flat surface on the top is if they're not really thick, they can actually bend as your part cools and shrinks. The weld shrinks, it'll actually bend the table a little bit. And my last table was made of 10 gauge material, which is about 1/8 of an inch or 3.5 millimeters on the top surface. And that gave me something nice I could clamp to, and I was excited to upgrade to that, but it didn't have the rigidity of something like this. The other thing that's really nice with a table, because this top is nice and thick and it has these standard holes, is I can just use standard clamps. So these clamps are actually from Strong Hand Tools. Langmuir has some clamps that are going to come out soon that they're showing, but they're not available yet. But basically, they just slide right in the hole and they bind, so you don't have to use any nuts at all. So I can just take something like this, clamp it right in place, or these larger bar style clamps that can slide right in there, and it's really nice to be able to do that. Another thing that's nice on it is this perpendicular reference surface, right? Because I can take and use these same clamps here on the side to hold something vertical, right? Just like that, and I know that I'm going to have it sitting right at 90 degrees. And in my opinion, while the tab and slot type tables have really brought a full welding table to be more accessible, and they make a good table, you're just not going to have anything that's going to be as flat or dimensionally stable as a real cast iron and machined piece like this. And the cost of this block is actually very, very similar to a similar size tab and slot design. So I recently did a project on this that I filmed some footage for a video, so I'll go ahead and roll some of that so you can see how I use these different clamps and things to be able to build a really nice project. So I think from that build you can probably see why I really like this here and this way of building and fabricating things. Hey, so let's take a minute and just talk about the quality of this table. I mean, when you look at this thing, it is a really nice piece. The machining lines are all straight. Everything's sitting nice and flat. When I check the angle here on the corner, it's dead on 90 degrees on my protractor. The clamps fit really nicely in the holes. It's really nicely made piece. The countersinks are just right for the screws here on the corners to be able to hold the legs in place. The legs have a hole cut in the top so that you can continue to use this corner hole. And on the bottom of the leg kit, there's an adjustable foot so that I can make sure I get it leveled and that it won't wobble around on me. Now there are a few regions where you can see casting voids that are showing through the machining, and on the Langmuir website, they pointed out that this could be the case. And I'm gonna show you each of the 3 regions that I found after looking really closely, and I'm getting pretty picky here. And these aren't defects, right? They're within what they said can be there, and it's not going to make any adverse effect on any of my projects. So here on the top, there's about a 1/8 inch wide, or less than that even, by maybe a 1/4 inch long little casting void that you can see. And then on 2 corners, on the sides, you can see another one that's similar size here on the back. And then on the front, this is the worst case one, but even still, I put my protractor on there and put it right to 90 degrees. It doesn't have any effect on that angle, and I'm not seeing light through there, so it's really just completely cosmetic. Those are the only things I could find to complain about the construction quality on this, and it's not really a complaint, and it's not outside of what they said that you can expect to find anyways. Another thing that's nice about this size of table is the shipping. So I was looking at getting a larger table earlier this year, or last year, excuse me, to have a cast and machine table. And not only was the table a couple $1,000s, but the shipping itself was going to be $800 with a truck with a lift gate. And that's just a huge cost. You know, that's as much as you're paying for this thing with the leg kit. So the leg kit itself is really nice because it doesn't have any bracing on it. And that's one of my biggest complaints with my last welding table, is it had a brace that went across, which when I wanted to sit there and TIG weld, it would get in the way of my knees like this, right? I wouldn't be able to sit down and actually do the job without doing a little bit of gymnastics there. And so it's nice here that it's just wide open, so that's a really good option, but you can buy it separately and build your own. I just think they did a really nice job of getting something put together that you can have at an entry-level price point. So, okay, so I'm going to show you how I like to take care of my welding table and clean it up. Right here you can see there's a little bit of weld spatter that I got from the project I recently did, and you're going to get that on the table from time to time. And rather than taking a grinder and taking it down, sometimes you have to do that, but if I can avoid it, I'll do that, and I use a sharpening stone like this. And so I'll just take it on that spatter, and a few passes back and forth. I'll go in a few directions, and you could hear that sound change right there. It's worked right down perfectly flat. Now, to keep it from rusting and to preserve it, or to work off any surface rust that it might develop, I just use Scotch-Brite pads and a little bit of WD-40, right? So I'll spray just a little WD-40 on, and then I'll take the Scotch-Brite, and then I'll just work it around with that Scotch-Brite pad, and that will take off any surface rust or anything else. And then after I do that over the whole table, I just take a rag and wipe it clean, and you have a nice bright surface, and some of that WD-40 will still be remaining there to preserve it from rusting, but not in a thickness that's so thick that you'll start to burn it off or have problems with your welding or grounding. I really like it. I'm excited to be using it for a number of years going forward. So anyway, if you want to learn more about welding and fabrication or other tips, go ahead and click that subscribe now, and I'll send more videos your way, and we'll see you next time.